Dr. Christopher Macklin is an extraordinary sage who brings several facets to his work, including spirituality, health and wellness, alien connection, angels, divination, the paranormal, war conspiracies, and more. Born as a highly aware psychic child in Chester, England, Christopher Macklin is one of 5 Melchizedek beings on the planet today, and he was often visited by negative ETs as a young child, and he's joining us today. Dr. Christopher Macklin, how are you today?
Yay, thanks for having us on, Dean. I'm wonderful, I tell you, absolutely amazed at the planet, but love it at the same time.
Yeah, and we're trying to save it too, aren't we?
Oh yeah, we're doing it, but you've got to have inner strength, and it takes a lot to step out there and do as much work as you can,
Yeah. Well, before we go any further, so tell us who you are and what your life's mission is.
Well, like you say, I was born as Melchizedek being. My life's mission is to really help the planet shift in consciousness and raise the planet's vibration. And I think, one of the biggest things, of course, is that because of the collective consciousness, there's a lot of hatred out there and things like that, plus the reptilian element underneath the planet, and also switching dimensions. They're out of this dimension, but they're roaming the planet. There's a consciousness from them that drags it down completely. So my mission is to really help cleanse that and really raise the vibration of the planet so people can get back to their sovereign self, because I see so many people like Paolo say, oh my God, I can't stand this planet. I don't sit well, I don't belong here. Well, you decided. I often tell them, you got in God's queue. When they want volunteers, I want volunteers. I'll do it. So you get in God's queue and I'll do it. And you get down here, think, oh my goodness, what was I thinking?
Yeah.
But you can turn that into like heaven on earth versus, not so good on earth. I don't like the word hell because it's just, but I think, you can get to a place where you've released enough emotion, you set boundaries, and, you find your passion within you. That's the key to me, because everyone's got to get, if you find your passion, you can get out there and really work on it. And, you feel like a warrior. And that's, that's one of the keys, I think, to navigating this planet.
Yeah. So what's a Melchizedek being? I mean, the name Melchizedek is familiar to me because of the character in the Bible, but what is a Melchizedek being?
Melchizedek beings were basically in the ultimate dimension. They assisted the prime creator to create this third dimensional world and agreed to police it. So there was like a certain sect of Melchizedek beings who would come down particular times, because it was. Think about this, it's a third dimensional world, it's free will. So very often it's all going south right now, and people say, okay, where's God? And the answer is that even the prime creator cannot interfere down here. So how do you get over that, rule? It's one of the keys of Enoch. So how you get over that rule is you bear star seeds, whether Arcturians, Palladians, Advantarians, Lumerians, Andromedans, and obviously Melchizedek beings. You're born down here, and it's our job as starseeds to bring from the ethers your starseed family, get them down here to help, because if you ask, you'll get, but you have to ask in certain ways. And of course, there's a lot of manipulation to try and stop you from asking transmissional frequencies that affect, when you send a thought out, it tries to block it. So you have to be really powerful about asking. So that's why God doesn't interfere. That's why it's our responsibility as starseed people to bring all the help from the ethers down here, to help the planet.
Yeah. So when you say you're a Melchizedek being, it's soul related. You're a Melchizedek soul.
Yeah, I mean, my DNA is 84% Melchizedek DNA. Obviously, a certain portion human. Body's kind of a bit different, but who cares? But, the fact is that, I was born as Melchizedek being. My mother was abducted. My body doesn't sit well in this third dimensional world, with the toxicity and everything, but, you just manage it and everything else. And like I say, you're born to, the Arcturians work very closely with Melchizedek beings, and, they help navigate. Like for example, Enoch talked about watchers. We have 3 watchers. And I'll give you a quick example, if I may. I went to a ranch in Arizona. There was gray issues with portals and things like that. So I went there and I was trying to open the portal. It took me a day and a half. Got the portal open. There was a sonic boom. Stuff was dropping out the sky. Very interesting. But the watchers turned up, like 3 craft, and they were just there, about a mile away, sitting there going 1 to 3. Just going behind each other. 5 minutes later, the military helicopters came flying around them. What the heck do we do with these? And the answer is they didn't do anything, of course. And they stayed there for 40 minutes while I had the portal open. And I asked them, okay, what are you doing? Oh, well, will you watch us? Oh, okay. And they're there to kind of take us off planet. If things get really crazy, they'll take us off planet, put us back on later on when things settle down. So we have 3 watcher craft that keep an eye on us, which is interesting, you know. So, and as soon as we closed the portal, they were gone.
Yeah. Was that the Stardust Ranch?
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
How do you know about Stardust, John?
Well, I've interviewed John Edmonds not long ago, and we spoke at length. And I also interviewed his his partner, who now lives in Costa Rica, the guy who did most of the writing in the book. And just some of the things that they were telling me kind of blew my mind. I think the scariest part of that story was John telling me about the doppelgangers. It's quite frightening what's happening down there.
Oh yeah, it is. And I remember, you get, he's got a horse, obviously a sanctuary, and you wake up in the morning, some of the horse was dismembered because these things eat animals, so they don't care. So they destroy the horses, so it did stop, which is good. But...
Yeah. So you say you're one of 5 Melchizedek beings on the planet. Have you met the others?
I know all of them. Yeah. I know all of them.
Okay. Are they all in the United States or the UK or the scattered around?
One's in the UK. One's they think she died 12 years ago. She's very famous, but she's still alive. There's myself, and then there's my wife, and then there's another one, which is the one that's gone south.
Right. Okay.
The one that's gone south within the royal family.
Yeah. Chris, you're a contact experiencer. Can you talk about some of your childhood experiences?
Yeah, I mean, I was taking on craft sometimes, periodically. But one of the biggest things is I remember when I was at 4, in my room, a great big old Anunnaki turned up. Now, they look like velociraptor. They're about 10 foot tall, big old thing. But, when you see them, you get this really dark feeling in your chest, like, oh, wow, this is not good. And I'm 4, Right. I said, Dad, there's a reptilian over here. And he comes running up, where's that? It's there, and I realized very quickly, even at the age of 4, that if I didn't manage this, they're obviously going to put you on some sort of drugs like largatril and, space you out, and then you're finished. So I learned to manage them. I told it, well, I command you go right now out of my bedroom. And it went. I thought, oh, that worked. And so, it taught me a lot, even at the age of 4, to how to remove these things. And now we do it every day, of course,
Yeah. There's a lot of people that, will want to argue with you when you talk about the Anunnaki and you don't talk about them in enlightening terms, because supposedly they seeded us. How would you respond to that?
I think there's various factions on the planet. If you look at Asians from Mars, or you look at, there's many factions. They seeded some of us, but I think a lot of us were seeded by the creator gods, what I call, Palladians, Sumerians, Arcturians. They use their, I think, 57 strands of DNA. So I think they kind of hijacked us because they wanted to get a race, obviously, to try and mine gold and things like this. So, yeah, are they good? With every race, nobody's all bad. There's always good, even alien beings, and there's benevolent or malevolent. It just depends. It's like even with, if you look at Hitler with all his army, were they all bad? The answer is probably not, but they were scared to death of being shot if they didn't follow orders. To me, that's not okay, but that's just my opinion. So there's good and bad.
So let's talk about the evil presence of negative ETs on the planet. I've interviewed some people, I'm talking in the minority as far as all the interviews that I've done with people being harassed by aliens with evil intent, but they exist. They're real. A lot of people will tell you, no, there's no such thing as an evil alien. But from not my experience, but from my experience of speaking to people that have had evil experiences with them, yes, there are. So how do they present themselves?
Well, they can actually switch into this dimension, and you can actually physically see them, but most of the time they stay out of this dimension. I'll give you an example. I remember I worked with a very well-known broadcaster, and what happened is his wife was being hounded by reptilian beings. So what would happen is when she got angry, he said, "I don't understand." And he's a big guy. She was very petite and slight. She would throw him across the room about 20 feet and slam him into a wall. And the woman doesn't have the strength. And he said, "How is that possible?" I said, "Well, what happens is that, if there's an attachment, if she's got an attachment, what it could do is detach, switch in this dimension for a fraction of a second, like a quarter of a second, while you're not looking, grab you, throw you, and then switch out again. Then you're looking back and think, wow, what happened there? And it was actually the being that's 10 foot tall. It wasn't the woman herself, but she had attachments. And one of the biggest things I find, like I say, we work on, 80,000 people a week. One of the key instruments to these negative aliens, if you can't see them, they're attached to you. Like Draconian, they sit at the abdomen, hang on the shoulders, so shoulders always tight. They tap in the lower back, so they destroy the L4, L5 disc. They send you negative thoughts. So you get these thoughts like, well, you're useless, you're pathetic, you should commit suicide. And it just goes on and on 24/7. They suck the life out of you. They also crash the adrenals, liver. So they're attaching to you, they're parasites, but you can't see them. And, your abdomen gets bloated because it paralyzed the intestines and the end of the rib cage down. So you feel blur all the time. And of course, it's affecting your body. Now, I see it all the time. 97% of people who come for healing have some sort of attachment. So it's real, but they can switch. In this dimension, of course, we have alien hybrids, like the Queen of England, like, half the deep state people, they're alien, they're reptilian hybrids. So they're working for the reptilians. People think, oh, the deep state is it. And they're really not, they're just puppets. The guys in control are underneath the planet, and want to come up. And of course, with the loss of children, hundreds of thousands a year, where did they go? Oh, below the planet, they're used as food, they eat them. Now, people might think, oh, that sounds nuts. Well, okay, whatever. But it's now coming true. They're pulling kids out of underneath these dumbs and everything else, hundreds of thousands of them. So, it's our job to put a stop to it. And, I always think, not on our watch. It's not okay.
Right. So the threat is not from outer space. It's from within our own planet.
Yeah, underneath there's massive caverns. They're very sulfury. They have very low oxygen level. And so, what is the deep state? If they're reptilian hybrids and working for the reptilians, what they want to do is get them up to the surface, but they can't because the level of oxygen up here, they can't breathe that much oxygen. Mm-hmm. So what they do is they make up something like global warming, it's all blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
They make up that. And again, it's my opinion, everyone else might think differently. So they've got people like, Bill Gates or whoever, they want to spew in the sky things to block the sun out to reduce the plant life. So the oxygen reduces. So the human beings will start falling apart and, up come the reptilians who can actually then live on this planet. They want to take over the planet. Mm-hmm. That's the biggest psyop, and it goes beyond all what's happening, to me. Yeah. Everyone thinks it's just the deep state people, and it's not, they're just puppets.
So were they original inhabitants here on Earth, or did they come from elsewhere?
They came from elsewhere, and they kind of hijacked it. It started off with, and again, it might change history, but it started off with ape-like human beings. They were policed, and then these things got here, and they wanted to hijack it. They saw the gold and the potential of planets. It's a beautiful planet. It's got so much life on it. And so what they decided to do is try and impregnate and change the DNA of the human being to start put reptilian DNA in. And that's where it kind of went south. And so, it's been going south ever since. And that's why the Melchizedek beings have been at different times, especially over the last 4,000 years. Most people's starseed would have come several times in the last 4,000 years because it was a rehearsal for the now. All the things like Jesus and Buddha, all these people, they come back for the rehearsal, but now is it, it's the biggest shift on this planet there's ever been.
Okay, can you talk a little bit about that shift and about the now?
Well, as we know, there's, to me, it's a mental psyop. They're creating separation and things like that. And of course, the other things we can't talk about. But, there's a lot of things going on, and to me, it's like Montauk program. It's mind control. They're trying to mind control the masses. And to be fair, they're doing an amazing job. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know what to say. They're doing a great job. But you can't mind control starseeds. I mean, like I say, most starseeds, every time I speak to them, I say, but I don't belong here, And so what you got to do is learn to navigate, stay on the periphery, and do as much work as you can to help people. But, the whole planet, like I say, the whole point of this exercise is the minions up here, which is deep state and whatever you want, trying to be in control and have all the money. They want to try and control the thing so that they can actually get the reptilians up here. That's the biggest thing. So we have a project, a huge project. We're building off-planet pyramids with the Arcturians, and they're going to be placed down here over the next probably year or year and a half. I can't say, it's going to be somewhere in the United States, but I can't say exactly where it is. So why do you need those? Well, the thing is about the ley lines, they've all got blockages. If you look at deep state and banks and things, they've all got negative symbology and satanic stuff that blocks the ley lines, so it stops the energy flow around the planet. These things will be so powerful, they'll blow all it out. So they've got to be placed in the golden, ratio curve, where you've got one, the smallest one will be on the end of the curve. The second biggest one will be closer, and the biggest one will be actually on the ley line, which is 999.999 feet tall. It's huge, So,
wow.
And once we actually get those, they're stargates. They're very different than the ones in Giza or anywhere else. They're stargates, so they'll inject a lot of energy into the planet, which means that if you redeem yourself, you'll switch to the fifth dimension. If you don't, might perish. And so it'll be, especially for the reptilians, it'll be a cleansing exercise. They'll have to leave the planet if they don't want to redeem themselves and get a high vibration. So it's going to be a really good instrument to actually really help the planet switch to the 5D.
Yeah. Is it just reptilians, or are they being assisted by other races?
Well, you've got the Greys, of course. The biggest ones are, Draconians. I mean, they're the most powerful ones. If you get one of those attached to you, you get sick really quick with cancer within weeks, because they're really low vibration. And, that's obviously they're switched out of this dimension, but they're attached to you. But they're in this dimension underneath the planet. And then you've got the Anunnaki, you've got Luciferians, they're all working together. That's part of the Vatican, as you know. So, I mean, the Vatican's controlled, if you're part of the Vatican thing, you worship at Lucifer, full stop, because all the symbology is right there. So I think, they're the main factions that want to really control the planet. And like I say, people often say to me, what's not hijacked? And the answer is nothing. Everything's been hijacked. And I said, well, what do I do? And get back to your discernment. That's, the only way you can navigate this planet is with your own discernment, your own truth. And that's really important. You don't need a guru. You don't need anybody. You just need to get back to your intuition, and feel into it. Even Christianity, and, but everything's been hijacked, and there's satanic things in there to help them gain power, and it's really sad. Yeah.
Well, you've touched on it, and I know you say you're not Christian, but I mean, are we talking about demons as described in the religious realm?
Oh yeah, I mean, if you look at Jesus' teachings, he talked about cast the demon out. The interesting thing about Luciferians, Anunnaki are fairly kind of relaxed. They'll attach you and they'll just manipulate over a period of time. Draconians attach you, you start feeling sick really quick, your vibration really drops, and you get suicidal really quick. But when they're removed, now the Luciferians are very snarly. Now, I think, in Jesus' case, I think he was dealing with the Luciferians, because when when they're in somebody's body, they contort your body, they hiss and speak through a raspy voice. That's the sort of demonic presence we're talking about. But he never really defined them. He just said demonic entities. And to me, it's not okay. I mean, I'm not judging them. Do what you like, but not in my body, not on our planet. Go somewhere else and do it. It's not okay. So when you remove those, I mean, when I do healings on people, we put them in a portal, and the Melchizedek beings escort them out. I always tell people, your body might contort a bit, speak through a voice box, a raspy voice, but they're leaving, and we send them back to God with unconditional love and forgiveness. So yeah, that's the demonic, I think, entities Jesus was talking about, the Luciferians.
Right. So if someone's going through something like that, I mean, do they call a Catholic priest? I mean, is an exorcism what they need?
Well, it's a quick fix if they can exercise them. Yeah, okay, in the name of the Lord or whatever, I command you leave. The problem is with getting rid of these things is that you've got to put them somewhere. Otherwise, if you, for want of a better word, piss them off, they're going to float around and just attach to somebody else. You've got to put them safely. And that's why, when someone's in a portal, I send them back to God. They go up the portal, gone. That's number one thing. Now, the second thing is, as again, going back to Jesus' teaching, not a Christian, but I love his teachings. He talked about they hunt in packs, they do. So what happens is you remove one, and if your vibration's precarious, another one can attach straight away within 2 hours. So how do you get over that? Well, we have a prayer protection. It's called 27 esoteric Merkabah field prayer, which is a map of intent. If you keep saying that 3 times a day, it'll keep the things out whilst you're trying to raise your vibration. Now, when you raise your vibration to a certain level, what will happen is that your energy level is way beyond theirs. They're down here, you're up here, so they can't get near your energy field because it's way too high. So the whole point about healing to me, or the whole point about keeping these things away, is to raise your vibration, release your load of emotion, so that you can get to that place where you feel like empowered and they can't get near you then. And I see so many people getting attacks with these things. It's untrue,
So that's when most people are vulnerable, when their vibration is very low.
Yeah, and and let's be honest, the state of the world. I mean, people get abandonment issues, and I deal with Illuminati fallout children, which is abuse beyond your wildest dreams. We help them to reprogram the mind so that they can start living in this world again without all the abuse. I mean, generally on this planet, people ingest way too much emotion. From everything, from films to, news to everything, people around you, hatefulness, hatred on Facebook, everywhere. And so it's important to release that emotion, the biggest release of emotion quickly, so that you can actually get your vibration up. Because if you've got 100,000 layers here, you're going to struggle getting your vibration up until you've released that emotion. Yeah.
Mental health is a massive problem right now. Depression is in epidemic proportions. Is this the type of thing that these beings will cause people to go through?
Oh yeah, I mean, if they attach you, the Anunnaki Draconians, if they attach you, they tap in the lower back between L4, L5 discs. That's why people have lower back issues when they're depressed, because it damages it gets bulgy, and then of course you've got sciatic issues. It sends you through your spinal cord negative thoughts. So you'll be going around the day working, oh God, that was pathetic. That was useless. It's just useless, pathetic. You should commit suicide. Good. No one wants you. You'll just get these thoughts all day, every day. As soon as you remove it, it's gone. I'll give you one example. I had a lady who was in the theaters in New York. What do you call them? The famous theaters? I forget. The West Side or something, anyway, whatever.
Yeah. I'm not a big theatre person, so.
No, I'm not either. But anyway, she was pretty up there, leading cast and everything else. And her mother phoned me one day. She texted me, said, "My daughter's trying to commit suicide. She's trying to cut her wrists and things." I said, "Look, I just left the office. I said, look, I'll be back in 2 hours. Don't let her out your sight." Okay. So I got back in 2 hours, got them both on Skype. She had a draconian entity. I removed it, started revibrating, getting the vibration up, released a lot of emotion. That girl, her whole face went from grey to, normal pink colour, and she was laughing her head off within an hour. So, that's an example of how profound these things are. And people say, "Oh, well, I don't believe it." Okay, well, don't know what to tell you, but we do this every day.
Yeah. Well, Chris, I mean, you're helping a lot of people every day, but but do you still get criticism from certain factions about what you're actually doing?
Oh yeah, you always get that, this is not in the name of the Lord or something. Okay, well, whatever, that's okay. I've learned not to take it seriously. I used to have, because I've got huge empathy, and so when I was in England, if someone talked about me behind my back, oh my God, how can they do that? Now I've set boundaries. I don't allow anybody in, don't allow anybody near me. And it's only because I love people. But I think you have to set back to love people. You've got to set boundaries so that they don't start feeding or criticizing you. I mean, we get the odd criticism, but mostly, I mean, the feedback we get is like amazing. You know, like, wow, you've changed my life, and people in tears. And that's what keeps me going. But you always get one person who's jealous or something, and you know, well, you know, this is satanic or something. Okay, then, well, if this is satanic, I don't know what God is, but hey, you know, we're just healing people. You know, I'm just doing my best to help. You know.
We've spoken about the negative ETs. What about the positive ETs? I mean, who are they?
Well, you've got Melchizedek beings, only 5 of you. You've got a lot of Arcturian beings, a lot of Arcturian starseeds, and the Arcturians are really helping us. They're helping to stabilize the wobble on the planet. They're really helping with this pyramid project. You've got the Palladians also doing a lot of things. They're helping people out. They actually have craft that go around. If people are really sick or something, they try their best to actually, they'll take them on the craft and, you know, help them and then put them back down. You know, there's things happen that people actually don't even realize. You know, as the Lemurians, you know, are putting certain crystalline structures, even esoteric, in the planet to help it, you know, stabilize. There's a whole host of ETs, you know, and it is a battle because these draconians are pretty dark and there's a lot of them, you know.
Yeah. But why are these good aliens helping us? I mean, what's in it for them?
Well, because we were their creation, you know, human race was their creation. And so they don't want to see the human race go down the pan and be absorbed through a reptilian agenda and manipulated, you know. So, but again, they can only help if we have star seeds of them, like Arcturians and, you know, Palladians down here asking them for help. And that gets over the universal law of free will, you know. So, right. And it is free will, because if you're born as, like, you know, even though you're a hybrid human being, you're an alien, you can still, you know, call on them for help, and, you know, things are changing, you know.
Are the positive ETs more powerful than the negative ones?
Well, I think, you know, love and God always overpowers negative ones, but, you know, sometimes things have got to go pretty south to wake people up, and, you know, and I think that's happening at the moment. You know, things are going pretty south. I mean, you know, it doesn't take a genius to look out there and think, wow, it's nuts.
Yeah.
But that's okay, you know, and I think, you know, I'd encourage people to stay out of it, you know, take a step back and just be in your space, stay in that loving place, keep people who love you and hold the space around you, don't criticize. That's really important, and set boundaries with the ones who do, you know, and don't be fearful of that, you know, and then you can keep your vibration up.
Yeah. I guess the UFO believing public, when we talk about races, Pleiadians are right up there among the most fascinating to them. But I mean, in recent years, we've heard a lot about the Arcturians. They're a what dimensional being are? I mean, they're pretty powerful, aren't they?
Yeah, 9th and 12th dimension they come from.
Wow.
Yeah, so I mean, the Melchizedek beings are from the ultimate dimension or infinite dimension. You know, people don't realize, oh, there's only 9 dimensions. There's not, there's infinite dimensions. So, and, you know, I actually chair the Galactic Federation along with 2 other Melchizedek beings. And, you know, we did, I think it was about 3 years ago, we discussed the Zeta Gray issue, because, you know, think about this, you know, the universal law is very specific. So we're going back to free will. So what's the difference between violation and education? And the answer, and it's a very close call. So, for example, you know, before you come down here, you have a look at it. Oh God, there's reptilians, there's things. Okay, I'll agree to come down. So you agree to come down, and then when you get down here, you have to learn to navigate them. So to me, that's education. These things try to attach to you, and there's prayers or there's ways of removing them. That's education. But what happens if someone comes in a craft like the Greys and decide that they're going to abduct you, steal your sperm or steal your eggs? That's violation, like 100% without your consent. So they were swept off the planet. Now, they've been very crafty. I think it was about 3 years ago, last June, they were swept off the planet by the Arcturians. But what they're doing now is they're actually coming through portals. So they kind of open a portal. They don't come into this dimension. So they're technically, in quotes, not here, but they're still messing about with people. So they're being very crafty. but it's what it is. But
Yeah.
a lot of the grey activity has diminished, and I think a lot of the technology comes from the greys. And sadly, I mean, are we evolved enough to handle that technology? The answer is absolutely not. It's like giving a 2-year-old keys to a Ferrari. It's going to get smashed up, and look what's happening. So
yeah,
interesting.
You mentioned the Galactic Federation. I mean, we hear a lot about federations. Out in space. The Council of 8, the Council of 9. I mean, what is the Galactic Federation? I mean, how many races are involved in that?
Thousands, absolute thousands. This is probably something different than the Council of 8 council. I mean, Arcturians have the Council of 9, and different people have different councils. Arcturian Council, Palladian Council. Archangel Michael is an ancient Palladian, of course, and there's other archangels that are different races. But I think the Galactic Federation polices all time space, in every dimension. So it's huge, and like I say, there's a lot of there's thousands of beings at some of these meetings, done by telepathy. Sometimes you're taken bodily. Most of the time you're taken by the soul, and you go and sit at the meetings, come back, and you feel as though you've been beaten with a baseball bat when you get back.
Right.
Whole body kind of aches, because these things, these craft, if you're actually physically there, travel 300,000 miles an hour. So it's kind of nuts. But I've been on them, been there, and helped a lot.
Yeah. Well, how do they view us then? I mean, you're talking about the problems we've got within our planet, but I mean, when we, in the last 100 years, when we've discovered that we can set off like an atomic bomb and create mayhem in that regard, is that something that they've looked closely at and even
they do
making a decision on?
Oh yeah, and they can get involved again. I mean, if they can't get involved unless starseeds here, but there's a lot of starseeds like we're not setting atomic bombs. We need your help. So what they do is they disarm them. They can disarm them just like that. Yeah. So that's why a lot of bases, they get craft coming over, and suddenly all the bombs are disarmed, and they try and put it back again, and disarmed again. They're on top of this thing. Yeah. So I mean, that's why I don't.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about infinite dimensions. I mean, setting one of these things off, how much damage does that do to beings in other dimensions?
Well, the dimensions are closed off, so it wouldn't do damage there. But certainly, this third dimensional world, there's a whole universe of planets, and that's going to have a knock-on effect, because these things are really, really powerful, and they're getting more powerful by the day. But that's why I think they're actually stopping us from using nuclear weapons, because it's happened in the past, and certainly on the Greys, they destroyed the whole planet by setting off nuclear weapons. That's why they're trying to create human hybrids to keep their race going. So they don't want it to happen again. So
right. Well, at this point in time, where do you think we are as a race? I mean, are the negative ETs winning at the moment, or do you see things turning around?
I don't think they're winning. I just think it looks like they're winning. I think what's happening is that there's a lot of people of the light. There's a lot of people of God. I don't like the word love and light and all this sort of thing. But there's a lot of people who really want this planet to succeed, and they're getting together. And sometimes people say, well, I can't do enough. Well, all you can do is do as much as you can. I mean, the project we've got is going to cost probably $100 to $200 billion to create it, not to buy the land, but to actually create an infrastructure for people to come and see it. Because if you can imagine, if these pyramids just appear from nowhere, oh my God, I've got to come and see them. So you're going to get millions of viewers a year. So, where's the money come from? Well, we've got 5 banking people creating instruments to be able to create this money. It's just money, And again, if you believe in God, or you believe in, I define God as God, Goddess, prime creator of all it is, they'll take care of it. You don't ever have to worry. And that's the thing about, I think that's the thing about people with, if I can just mention this, because it's important, I think. Let's think about spiritual businesses, and I don't, if you create a spiritual business, you just need to focus on your gifts. Don't ever worry about where the money comes from. In my earlier life, I used to work for Marconi and British Aerospace, and CASA, different things, doing autopilot systems and whatever. Yeah, I earned a lot of money, but hated the job, couldn't stand doing software, and thought there's got to be something better than this. Now I don't even think about money. I don't worry. The accountant takes care of the accounts. IT guy does the IT. I just do the healings, and and it's the thing I absolutely adore, as you can probably tell.
Yeah,
I love it.
You seem pretty relaxed too, Chris. So this war, I guess, between good and evil. I mean, it's been going on a long time. Before we were seated on this planet, I mean, were there other races on planet Earth were there other civilizations on planet Earth before we came along?
Yeah, I think there was, and I think, but I think it was. We were put here as obviously experiment, and it's people I think misconstrue that it's the reptilians. I think the reptilians interfered with after. That's what the Melchizedek beings say, and that's what we see. Because the Melchizedek beings were responsible for the Akashic records, which is quite interesting. They created the Akashic records with a prime creator because they knew that people would try and alter history, time, space, and you can't do with the Akashic records. Why is that? Well, if you go back in time on this time, say you go back and we send Dean back on his timeline to, say, 1934. So you go back on that timeline and you can see Hitler across and, we want to do something about him, but you can't because that timeline has already happened. Mm-hmm. You've not gone back on his timeline, you've gone back on your timeline. So you can only view it, you can't alter the history. And that's really important because if you could, it would destroy the whole time space here, so... But, the interesting thing is, and one or two Melchizedek beings who can split now future timelines. So we can split your timeline in two. And that's one of the protocols we use for separating Morgellons particles and all the other stuff that's going on at the moment out of the body. We split the timeline as time goes on over 10 weeks. It separates the stuff out of the body, and then we do a DNA change. So that's quite a profound instrument for healing. It's just interesting.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned Morgellons. I mean, manufactured diseases. Most of us. I'd say most of us. I mean, I certainly believe. But COVID, for example, is a manufactured disease. Is this part of the the negative ET agenda?
Oh yeah, I mean, all the technology comes from the Greys, and I think most of it came through Hitler in 1932, whatever. They did tests on it, nanoparticles, they got all this technology. And then, of course, they had the Paperclip project, a lot of these scientists move over here, and they kept going with it, so DARPA and all the other, deep state, agendas started using it for not so good things. I mean, these nanoparticles, it's interesting, Morgellons particle, if you have Morgellons, you have Lyme disease because the nanoparticle is bound with Borrelia. So Borrelia is the spirochete of Lyme disease. So these things are biologically alive, but they have no soul. It's really interesting. So they're put in your body as a mothership to use the energy to get these things, and they can replicate. These particles can grow through the body. It's crazy. But some of the content of these particles is nylon 36, 33. That's why people get like nylon coming, like plastic coming out of the skin. It just grows, so It's pretty horrific. Morgellons to me is the worst disease you could ever want to have. It's evil, and we've worked on a lot of people with Morgellons and completely eradicate it from the body. So
wow. Chris, what's the biggest conspiracy that humanity is dealing with right now?
Well, there's a few. To me, it's the reptilian agenda. I think it's the agenda. They don't want us here. You can see that. I mean, I think people, if they're not awake, they think, we're doing good things and, take jab, whatever, but to me, it's the reptilian agenda to try and eradicate the human race off the planet so that the reptilians can take it over. And that's what's happening. I mean, it's been going on for eons, but I think the main things that happened, the change happened in the Babylonian times. And since then, we've had different times where, things have gone south, but come back. But it's been, I think the deep state hybrid reptilian agenda has been getting worse and worse. But this is it,
Yeah.
Like say 4,000 years ago, if you came in, well, whatever, there was, Romans and things, but nothing like this. This is really a World War III without even kind of seeing it physically.
Yeah.
It's mind control and substances and things like that, and it's crazy.
Would there be repercussions for the reptilians and their allies if they eventually did get rid of us?
Well, there's always karma for everything, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's not going to happen. So it's just not going to happen. So I think with the instruments we've got in place, that's why I think things are going to shift. I'm not saying the pyramids are the savior, but they're going to do a lot of good for this planet. And I think people are going to do illusion if they say 50% of people are awake. I think you got to be kidding. There's not even 2.4% of people awake.
Yeah.
And I think but also to transcend to a different dimension with a different energy, you have to have a collective consciousness, and I think it's tanking because of all the hatred and the separation, mass and things and this and that. I don't want to say too much, of course, but I think it's all tanking at the moment, and I think I think it's going to start cleansing as we raise the vibration of the planet. People start releasing a lot of emotion and different things, and things will change. They really will.
Yeah. So what can people do right now to raise their consciousness levels?
Well, meditate, do yoga, whatever spiritual practice you do that gives you joy. If you want to join our, we have 3 times a week we have a healing session for an hour.
Yep.
That's Monday 9 a.m. Central Time, Thursday 5 p.m. Central Time, Saturday 11 a.m. Central Time. Now, if you want to join those, people say, well, I've got no money, but you don't need money. It's by donation. If you got money, help us. If you don't, that's okay. And I tell people, never shame yourself, because I've been without money. I've been without food for 21 days. I lived out of a car, been there, got the t-shirt. So I know what it's like. That's why we do it 3 times a week, to make sure everyone gets a healing. But that, released a lot of emotion. We've also got meditations for ADD, ADHD, PTSD, which releases 9 releases of emotion related to that. And then it gets the Melchizedek beings to work on the glands to rebalance the neurochemical flow, because a lot of people at the moment, because the extreme circumstances we're in, like you say, are getting PTSD, anxiety. And so once the neurochemical balance is off, it's very difficult to rebalance it. So we have meditations to help that if you want them. It's in the brain series.
Yep.
There's a whole load of instruments, but to me, also walk in nature, go, get into nature. We have 40 acres, 20 minutes away from here. And I find when I go there, you can feel the trees, they actually absorb all the anxiety energy. And not that I get anxious, but you can feel yourself like, this is great. Mm-hmm. And, that really helps as well. I think anything like that, things you really enjoy,
Yeah. Chris, I'd like to spend a lot more time speaking to you about other topics, including multidimensional soul families, but we'll leave that for another time. So just in closing, just tell us a little bit about the Global Enlightenment Project.
Right, so we developed, we've got a ministry, a 501c3, which is a charity. It's called Crystal Macklin Ministries. The Global Enlightenment Project, if you go to the website, globalenlightenmentproject.com, it's been created to, first of all, help people get back to their sovereign selves, get rid of the guru, get rid of all things, raise your vibration, get these attachments away, and encourage people to connect with their starseed family and find their passion. And also the second thing is, of course, is the Pyramid Project to help humanity as a whole on this planet. And, the whole thing's about helping people, so if people want to join, just go to the Global Enlightenment Project and, we can help you raise your vibration. Okay,
they should be able to see that on screen too, the globalenlightenmentproject.com. Visit that website. Final question, Chris, future for humanity, what does it look like? Is it limited or long-term?
Well, I think it's good. I just think it depends how many people on the planet will survive, and that's an unknown quantity at the moment. You've got to remember, in the Akashic Records, there's a collective consciousness, where there's infinite timelines. We could go down a path of like complete disaster, or go down a path of, raising our vibration. And then there's also your own consciousness as well. You have your own timelines, and so which are connected to so it's really important for us, all of us as a whole, to focus on it's going to be okay. I always tell people, God's got your back, as long as you believe it. You know, God's got your back as long as you don't start getting negative thoughts. Oh my God, they're going to come and get me. I see people all the time. Oh, they're all going to come and get me. Well, you know, if you keep saying that, you're going to manifest your own demise. So stop it. You know, manifest like they're not coming to get me. You can't touch me. Full stop. There is no doubt, and you'll be okay. You know?
Right. Chris, been fascinating speaking with you today. I'm hoping to get you on again in the not too distant future, and we'll talk about some
absolutely.
other topics. Okay.
Oh, thanks, Dean. Thanks so much for having me. It's been great. Bless your heart.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Chris. Christopher Macklin joining us today.